What's up, faithful? You're listening to another episode of the 49ers Web Zone No Huddle podcast, a part of the Odyssey Network. I'm Brian Rennick. He's Al Sacco. Al, it's Chiefs week here in 49er land. How are you feeling on this? It's Tuesday, October 15th. We've got about 5 days before, again, the Chiefs invade Santa Clara. Confidence level, where are you at? 1 to 10.
Well, in terms of how I'm feeling, I'm watching the Yankees right now, and they had a comfortable 3-0 lead as we're recording this podcast, and now it's 3-2, and I'm getting a little bit nervous. So I'm feeling a little bit nervous about that, but I still feel good about the series. I think the Yankees are going to be in the World Series, probably going to play the Dodgers. But listen, it's been 15 years. It's tough for us Yankee fans. So, we've been through a lot.
So tough.
We've been through a lot.
So tough.
So tough. We see how this goes, but I'm excited, man. Cole didn't have it tonight, but I still feel good. If they lose to the Guardians, I'm watching this Guardians team. I don't even know who any of the players are on the team. Like, other than Jose Ramirez, the casual baseball fan,
wild,
no
right?
idea who these guys are. It's crazy,
wild,
crazy.
Yeah.
But in terms of the Niners, I don't know, because I don't know if they're any good. Right. And we'll talk about this later in the show. I don't know what teams are good right now. We're already into week 7, and nothing goes by faster than the NFL season. Nothing. I can't believe it's week 7 already.
Yeah.
But we are this deep into it, and I don't know who's good. I don't know if the Niners are good, but we'll talk about that. Before we do, you know me, Brian, and people who follow me may think I'm on Twitter a lot because I do tweet a decent amount, but I really don't interact or try to read things that much on Twitter other than just headlines and news and things like that. Because when I do, typically I get pissed off because it's ridiculous, and I feel like the things people say are just out of this world. What's bothering me now in terms of the landscape of covering sports is changing, right?
Yeah.
You don't have, national people doing it anymore consistently. And I shouldn't say consistently, but former players solely. Former players, and then you got your Joe Bucks. It's just not that anymore. You even just don't have your loudmouths anymore. There's always going to be Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith. Those guys are always going to be there. But it's changing in the sense that, one, there's a lot of content people like us. And any idiot can have a podcast, as Brian and I prove week in and week out. But there's so many people who just have so much to say, and these opinions get out there, and you could see a tweet or something that really could be somebody sitting in their basement living with their mom, but it can, echo because it gets retweeted and so many people see it. The other thing that drives me a little bit nuts about where this is going in terms of covering sports, you have these guys who I guess they're called film watchers. And people like that are your Benjamin Solaks, who I know you like, Brian, but I've kind of had it with these guys. Steven Ruiz, guys who, just because you watch film, how does that make you an expert? And they're just not idiots like us. Well, they are idiots like us, but they're just not dudes with like a podcast or a YouTube station. They work for big time outlets, The Ringer, Ben Solak's with ESPN right now.
Yeah.
But they come out with these takes that are not based in reality. And I saw Ben Solak put out a tweet, and it was in referral to the 76-yard touchdown pass that Brock Purdy threw to Deebo Samuel. Sure, everybody's aware of what I'm talking about, but it was a play action throw. Deebo got open. Brock might have underthrown it a little bit. Deebo attacks the ball. The safety maybe took a bad angle, but because Deebo attacked the ball, he was able to catch it and run in for a touchdown. In reality, in real life, that was a 76-yard touchdown pass. It doesn't have to be perfect. Football and playing quarterback is not an exact science. Every pass doesn't have to be on a rope in between two defenders for this beautiful, unbelievable throw that, oh God, only Justin Herbert can do that, or something along those lines. That's not how it works. And Solak puts in his tweet, I don't want to talk about the Brock Purdy discourse or the Brock discourse for the 50,000th time, but this sort of play that is the one that drives the film watchers nuts when it comes to parsing Purdy's impact on the offense. What? Because he underthrew his 76-yard touchdown pass a little bit. And then he says, I'm going to drop this here so everyone can stop telling me about how little yak Purdy has this year, because that's not what this clip is about at all. And then he puts a clip that 25% of Purdy's passing yards have come from yak so far this season. Who cares? Who cares? If you're watching football games, you were seeing Purdy week in and week out become one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. What is he doing? He's throwing the ball downfield a lot.
Yep.
He's making big plays downfield a lot, consistently. He's reading the field very well. He's running the offense that he's in very well. He is making plays off schedule. He's one of the best scrambling quarterbacks in the league. He's not a Lamar Jackson kind of bust a 50-yard run quarterback, but in terms of keeping plays alive, he's really one of the best in the league. He's becoming that. On top of that, this is a 24-year-old quarterback, a couple months younger than Bo Nix, a year younger than Jaden Daniels, who's still growing into his game. And yet these film watchers don't want to live in reality. And even some of these hot take guys like Colin Cowherd saying Bo Nix is better than him. Are you kidding me?
Wild.
Are you kidding me? And what I can't get past, Trevor Lawrence, Dak Prescott, Geno Smith, guys like this who are good I don't know if Trevor Lawrence is a good quarterback. Good quarterbacks in the NFL. I'm not saying that they're not. But there's just this constant in belief when you see your rankings and everything else, like, oh, well, these guys are better than Purdy. Are you watching the same thing I am every Sunday? Because I watch a lot of football every Sunday. I watch these guys every Sunday. Dak Prescott is not better than Brock Purdy. He's not playing better than Brock Purdy. Trevor Lawrence is not playing better than Brock Purdy. Geno Smith is not playing better than Brock Purdy. Did they maybe have more physical gifts than him? Sure. But they're not better than Brock Purdy. When is this going to stop? When are people going to start living in reality and look at the proof that's been put on the field? Brock Purdy is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. End of story.
Yeah. And, each year is different, right? And Brock Purdy's coming off a season where he was a top 5 MVP finalist. And this year he's raised his game. Like, he is arguably playing better than he did last year. And part of that is that the offense has evolved. Like you said, it is a more downfield passing offense now. They are taking bigger shots. They are, they are employing longer routes. They are just trying to get bigger chunks in the passing game. And not only is Brock Purdy succeeding, but he's also keeping plays alive with his legs. He's making off-schedule plays. He is playing the quarterback position for the San Francisco 49ers better than anybody has since, you could argue, Steve Young. And I just, for whatever reason, people just can't get over the fact that A, he was the last pick in the draft, and B, he's not a physically imposing player. He doesn't have a rocket arm. There's nothing that you can look at Brock Purdy's game physically and say, look, he's elite at that. Now, I mean, you could argue that his 10-yard split is elite because it's faster than Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel. And that's impressive in and of itself. That is, short area quickness and athleticism. Mm-hmm. That's why he is good at escaping the pocket. That's why he can keep plays alive. That's why he's an excellent scrambler. He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not going to bust off, or even Joe Burrow, a 47-yard touchdown run. Maybe he'll get one of these days. But what he is going to do is pick up positive yardage on broken plays. He's going to keep a play alive. He's going to escape a pocket and keep his eyes downfield. But what makes Brock Purdy elite is between the ears, and that's hard to quantify. And so when you watch film, you can't quantify that. You can't quantify what he's thinking, what he's looking at. You can't quantify his processing. You can't do those things. You can't do that on film. And so I just think that, these guys are so hell-bent on, proving their priors, if you will, for the guys that they like versus the guys that are performing at a level that perhaps to them is unexpected, but, to 49er fans, I mean, I don't know about you, but I've expected really good play from Brock Purdy since about the 4th game that he started in the NFL, because that's all he's done is played incredibly well. He's had some stinkers, right? He had the game against Baltimore.
Everybody does.
But those are few and far between for this player. And it doesn't matter if his yards come from yak. That is how the offense is designed. But this season, it hasn't been that. And people are still trying to call him a checkdown merchant or a yak merchant or whatever. And the reality is that he's just playing the position at a high level. And while there are still those out there that are having a difficult time giving him his flowers, I do see across the NFL landscape, across the national coverage, I am starting to see more and more that he is starting to get some of that credit that he deserves. And I do appreciate that. There's always going to be the Steven Ruizes. There's always going to be the Ben Solaks, the guys that are, in my opinion, sometimes a little bit too smart for their own good when it comes to evaluating some of these things.
Right.
They're always gonna be there. But for the most part, you look at the guys that cover the game, that played the position, and to a man, I don't think you can find any quarterback that continues to cover the game that has said anything other than Brock Purdy is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL this season. And to me, I would much rather take their opinion than, again, somebody who has shown that they have a large or a vast knowledge of the game, but still have never played the position and therefore cannot necessarily quantify some of the things that these other guys, like a Kurt Warner, like a JT O'Sullivan, like these guys do. And again, some of what Brock does isn't going to show up on film, right? Like the anticipation, the throwing a player open, or whatever the case may be. And he doesn't get credit for that, when in reality that they aren't getting yak if he's not setting them up for yak. That's the thing, right? Like, it's not always throwing to wide open players that then get yak. Sometimes you have to throw a player open for them to get that yak. And that's what I think sometimes they miss.
And that's part of the offense. And that's what's so comical about the way the quarterback position is being covered right now to me. You know who threw for a lot of yak yards? Joe Montana. You know why? Because the offense ran plays like slants to great wide receivers who could run after the catch, and Montana would hit them in stride. I feel like if these guys were around in the 80s, they would knock Joe Montana and be, oh, well, he's not John Elway. He doesn't have the arm of Dan Marino. Joe Montana's he's a system quarterback. All Joe Montana did was win freaking championships. Nobody cares that Joe Montana almost threw an interception in Super Bowl 23. Nobody remembers that play. He almost threw an interception in the end zone that I don't know who the defender was, but he dropped it. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody gives a shit that Eli Manning just threw from his back foot as far as he could downfield during the helmet catch. Nobody cares. That play happened because it's not an exact science. Sometimes it's just about making plays. But here's the bottom line. At the end of the day, through 27 starts in the regular season, Brock Purdy has been consistently and historically good. Historically good.
Yeah.
Statistically, on the field, he's won 4 playoff games. He's made a Super Bowl. He is 24 years old. Like you said, the guys who actually know what they're talking about, who've been on the field, like to a man right now, yeah, most of them are all saying, and pretty loudly now, yeah, look, this guy's just one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah.
And for these other people that I don't care that you watch film, doesn't know what the hell you're looking at. You don't know what the hell you're looking at. Even the people who do know what they're looking at may not know what the read was on that play.
Right.
You don't know. Right. Only the 49ers know. Only Kyle Shanahan knows. Only Brock Purdy knows. You don't necessarily know what you're looking at just because you're watching film. And you could nitpick any quarterback every week. I was listening to Bill Simmons today on his podcast, and he was talking about Trevor Lawrence. So Lawrence has 21 wins in his first 55 starts. Okay. There are only 9 quarterbacks that have been that bad. Daniel Jones is one of them. I don't remember all the names, but it was Charlie Batch, Josh McCown, David Carr, Blake Bortles, Tim Couch, and there were 2 more whose names are escaping me, but they're of the same ilk, right? Mm-hmm. But still, when you look at a QB ranking, Trevor Lawrence is a top 10 quarterback. No, he's not. Right. At what point do you have to play like a top 10 quarterback to be a top 10 quarterback? At what point does any of this make sense?
Well, and that's what, and again, when you look at those and you see players like Trevor Lawrence, like even to a certain extent, Justin Herbert, I understand what those guys are saying, right? Like the talent is tantalizing and it's there, right? And there are sometimes sustained glimpses of that talent, but ultimately, I don't care how talented you are if you cannot turn that talent into wins for your football team. And fair or not, the quarterback is going to get the bulk of the praise and the bulk of the blame if your football team is losing. That's the nature of the position. Mm-hmm. And so I think for some of these guys are like, well, that's not fair. So we're going to take that out. Quarterback wins don't matter. I get it. Like I understand when trying to analyze the position that quarterback wins isn't necessarily always a fair stat, because there are quarterbacks who are talented, that play well, that are just on shitty teams that can't win because their defense sucks or whatever the case may be. But at a certain point, you got to shit or get off the pot. You got to start leading your team to victories.
Mhm.
That's all that Brock Purdy has done, right? Trevor Lawrence struggles to do that. If Trevor Lawrence was on the 49ers, would he have a better record? Well, yeah, obviously. I don't think that's a debate. But you also can't say that if you just drop Trevor Lawrence into this 49ers offense, that he's going to operate it the same way that Brock Purdy does, right? Because there are certain aspects of your game that need to be good for you to be good in this Kyle Shanahan offense. A quick release, a quick read, an ability to scan the field, right? And Trevor Lawrence hasn't necessarily shown that. Does Trevor Lawrence have a hell of an arm? Yeah. Right? Does he make incredible plays sometimes? Absolutely. But he's not consistently playing the position well, where Brock Purdy is consistently playing the position well, even if he doesn't have wow moments every game. But I don't need wow moments every game. I just need wins. And that's what Brock Purdy gives. And I don't care. I don't care what, what these guys have to say. I watch the games. I'm a 49ers fan, and I'm as happy as a pig in shit right now with how my quarterback is playing. And that's enough for me.
Yeah. Listen, I think that they have a franchise guy that they're going to have for the next decade. It's probably not going to go away because it's the medium now, but I just wish some of these film guys who never played and don't really understand what they look like, I hope people just get sick of it and just stop listening to them, because it's to the point where I used to listen to some of those Ringer shows. I can't even listen to it anymore because they're just so set in their statistics and their analytics and everything else and what they think they see on film that they don't see the reality of what's happening on the football field. They don't see a good football player. They want to nitpick it because, like you said, they don't look the way that they think they're supposed to look.
They're losing the forest for the trees.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And even if you did, if you put these guys on the Niners, what would Trevor Lawrence or Geno Smith or any of these guys have done? Would they have thrown for 4,300 yards last year? Would they have thrown 31 touchdown passes? Would they have led the league in rating? Would they have led the league in QBR? Would they have led the league in yards per attempt? Would they have made the Super Bowl? Well, I pretty did all those things. It's not like it's with the Jimmy Garoppolo argument is fair. And we saw what happened when Jimmy Garoppolo left the 49ers. He's a backup quarterback. He was terrible. So Shanahan did kind of elevate his game, but you could see that the Niners sort of had to win in spite of him, right? It was scheme things and he couldn't make plays off schedule. Purdy's a total 180 of Jimmy Garoppolo. Total. Everything that frustrated about Garoppolo, Purdy does well. Yeah. He throws the ball downfield. He has escapability. So it's just to the point, again, I know we spend a lot of time defending Brock on this podcast, and I'll continue to do that. If he starts to play poorly, I'll also be the first person to say he's playing like shit. But he's not. Is he perfect? Has he had some bad games? Sure. Everybody does. But he's a young quarterback who's getting better and better. And I think right now he's safely in the top 10 in the NFL in terms of the way he's playing.
Well, and, again, talking about the difference between Brock Purdy and Jimmy Garoppolo, somebody posted this, and East Bay Chris posted this.
He's funny.
Earlier today. I love East Bay Chris. He's phenomenal. Just a great 49er account, especially if you're looking to laugh. But he posted a clip of the last time that the Chiefs came to Santa Clara, right? That game was a 1-score game with, I think it was 2 minutes left in the first half when the 49ers were driving, and I believe they were on the Chiefs 30-yard line, and they were driving for a touchdown, and the protection broke down and somebody came free, and Jimmy Garoppolo just absolutely shit his pants and just threw the ball up into the end zone for an interception that ended that drive. And then it was all downhill from there. You don't see that from Brock Purdy. That's the biggest difference, right? You don't see situations where, again, he just pees down his leg because the play breaks down and he doesn't know what to do. And that's the biggest difference, right? Jimmy Garoppolo could operate this offense when everything was going perfectly. The minute things broke down, it was over for Jimmy Garoppolo. And that's the biggest difference, which is why he's a backup quarterback now, right? There's a big difference between a starting quarterback and a backup in the NFL. And a lot of that has to do with what happens when a play breaks down. What can you do? And Brock Purdy consistently keeps plays alive. And not only that, but makes good decisions when plays break down, can get the ball out, can throw it away, can run, can do whatever it takes, right? Whereas Jimmy Garoppolo, like I said, a perfect example was that Chiefs game where he just, threw the ball into the end zone for an interception. So again, did Jimmy Garoppolo operate this offense at a high level? Absolutely. But everything had to go perfectly. And the minute that it didn't, he fell apart. And that's the biggest difference between him and Brock.
Another thing that was funny to me about Ben Solak and his Purdy discourse is he chooses to show a play that he thinks Purdy underthrew. That was one of Purdy's 3 touchdowns. The other 2 touchdowns,
Absolute dots.
In the corner to George Kittle, probably a 30-yard throw across the field, I would say. An absolute dot in the corner of the end zone where only Kittle could have got it. An unbelievable throw. In the third touchdown, you look at his processing, the way he looks to he looked to the right. He held the linebacker, which allowed Kittle to get open over the middle. It was a second, I think it was a second read Kittle on that. Hits him for the touchdown pass. So 2 phenomenal plays that he did help his team because of those plays. And I'll argue too, was the ball a little bit underthrown again, but you have to take those shots. Niners weren't getting those shots before. Now they have a quarterback who's going to force the ball downfield, who's going to take those shots. And you get big plays when you have playmakers. You got to let your playmakers make plays, give them one-on-one matchups, throw the ball up to them. Let your playmakers make plays when you're a good quarterback. You get the ball in their hands. George Kittle has 18 touchdowns in 27 games since Brock Purdy took over. Elevates the people around him.
Pretty good.
End of story, man. Ben Solak, get out of here. You know what else? All right. I don't know who's good. Like I was talking about earlier. I'm looking at the NFL season. I watch a ton of football. I don't know how I'm not divorced at this point. I think I get away with it, Brian, because now it's quote unquote, it's my job, or it's like a part-time job for me. So now I can be like, listen, honey, I got to watch the games. I got to do a show. Like
I'm getting paid.
Yeah. Listen, Odyssey, they expect it's my job. I got to do it.
Right.
So she's living with me for right now. Is she going to divorce me eventually? Probably. I mean, I'm probably on borrowed time with this, but until if she does leave me, I have more time to watch football. So it's a win-win situation.
I mean,
but anyway, I watch all these teams. I watch all these games. I like to bet on games, as you know. I don't know who's good. And when you look around the league right now, when you look at these records, start in the AFC. There's 6 teams with a winning record. That's it in the AFC. And in terms of the divisions, 3 of the 4 of them are probably already done when you really look at it. So the Chiefs are 5-0. Chargers are 3-2. I don't think the Broncos or the Raiders are going to make much noise. Can the Chargers sneak to 10 wins with Jim Harbaugh? Probably, sure.
Maybe.
Are they good? I don't know. The Chiefs are good. I don't know if they're great, but they're a good team.
Their defense is lights out.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Yeah. And Mahomes is going to get it together. Mahomes is having probably his worst season to date, but he'll get it together. You know,
the problem is Rashee Rice is out for the year, and so is Hollywood Brown. And so you've got Xavier Worthy, you've got Juju Smith-Schuster, who I just picked up in fantasy because he's gonna have to play a bigger role in that offense. But
Pacheco's out.
Yeah, the problem with that team is not necessarily Mahomes; it's just the talent around Mahomes.
Oh, it was similar. I feel like they struggled last year too, and they still found a way.
Yeah.
They just always find a way.
Exactly.
So you cannot.
But I think to me, it's a defensive led team now, even though they have the best quarterback in the world.
100%, which is scary when you pair that kind of defense with that quarterback. But they're good. The Texans are good. They're 5-1, and they're going to run away with that division. I feel like that division's over already. The North will be interesting because Cincinnati doesn't look good, but they have enough talent where I think they can maybe push for a playoff spot. The Steelers are 4-2, but not a good 4-2 to me. They have no offense whatsoever. Defense is phenomenal.
But can I tell you that the reports that Russell Wilson is going to get first team reps in practice and
he's going to start this week, it looks like.
That is such, to me, a disastrous decision. Like, why are you have a winning, you are 4-2 right now with Justin Fields. Are you 4-2 because of the offense? No. But the offense isn't holding you back. Right? At least the offense is doing what it needs to do to win. And you're doing that with Justin Fields. You have no idea what to expect with Russell Wilson. And you also don't owe him anything. You have him on a league minimum contract. Like, I don't somebody tweeted out today that he's going to get his shot. I'm like, he doesn't need to get shit. Like, I just don't, that's a weird decision to me.
I think they kind of feel like they're on borrowed time with Fields. He didn't play well at all last week. He makes up for it with
It's
his
gonna happen,
legs,
but yeah,
but I kind of think we're on borrowed time. Let's see what Russell Wilson can do, and you can always go back to field. But they may get in the playoffs, but I don't think they're going to do anything. Baltimore is good. Their defense isn't what it has been in the past years, but on offense now they're so scary with Lamar and Derrick Henry, and you got Zay Flowers starting to play better. They can be legit good. And then in the AFC East, there's two big trades that happen there today.
yes,
Devontae Adams goes to the Jets. Amari Cooper goes to the Bills. I thought the Monday night game between the Bills and the Jets was huge because now the Bills have a 2-game lead and the Bills do not have a hard schedule. Bills can get to 10 wins pretty easy with their schedule. So I feel like that's I don't want to say a foregone conclusion, but it's pretty close.
I like that Cooper trade more than I like the Devontae Adams trade. I mean, I understand the Devontae Adams trade.
I feel like the Jets are grasping at straws.
Right. It does kind of feel that way. But the Amari Cooper trade, I think, is a very shrewd move for the Bills, who
trade
went into this season like we're gonna kind of hand it over to some younger guys and see if we can still get this offense going. And then they played for the first 6 weeks and went, yeah, that's not working so much. So let's get a proven veteran in here. And I think Amari Cooper is going to have a massive second half of the season with Josh Allen. I just think that's a great trade.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Good for your Gumar.
Hey, listen, they're running the ball really well, and now Allen's got a legit dude because they're doing it with a bunch of 2s and 3s, and Keon Coleman's figuring it out. But they needed a dude. They needed a dude at wide receiver. Yep. They went out and got it, so good for them. NFC, how it relates to the 49ers, who's good?
The NFC North is good.
I was just going to say that. I think maybe that whole division is good. Other than that,
the Packers are 4-2 and they're in 4th place.
Well, if you look at that division, Minnesota's legit. Minnesota's legit. Now, there's only been one interdivision game, and it was between the Vikings and the Packers, and the Vikings beat the Packers. So eventually, these guys are going to start
Malik Willis. The Packers with Malik Willis.
Yeah.
Right? Or was Love in that game?
No, that was
Willis. Yeah.
No, Love came back.
Love.
It was Love because
that was his first game back. Yeah.
Yep. And they came back. They were down by a lot, and Green Bay came back at the end of the game. But I think Green Bay, as good as Minnesota's been, they scream one and done in the playoffs to me. Detroit and Green Bay scare the shit out of me as a 49ers fan. Now, Aiden Hutchinson getting hurt.
That's a big loss.
Huge. And that was brutal.
And that was disgusting.
I didn't want to see it. Once they said you don't want to see it, I'm like, I don't want to see it.
I didn't mean to see it. I wasn't watching the game at the time. I was just scrolling Twitter, and then a video popped up, and I was like, oh my God. Ugh. Had to have emergency surgery. Hopefully, you hope for the best for that, right? It kind of reminds you a little bit of Alex Smith, and you're hoping that that's not the case.
Was it that bad? Did the bone come out?
I have no idea if the bone came out, but I mean, it just straight up looked like Jello. Like it just looked like Jello. Like his leg literally wrapped around the other dude's leg. So it's a compound fracture for sure. I just don't know if it came out of the skin.
I saw him go down and he was still kind of pulling for Prescott. And I'm like, oh, he probably just got it twisted or something. He'll be okay. And then it was like, we're not showing this. Yeah. And I'm like, holy shit. And I don't want to see it. And I hate when people repost that stuff. Like, respect the dude, man. If that's like your family member or friend, you don't want to see that posted over and over and over again. Just it's awful. Hopefully, again, he can get his career going again. But anyway, those two, even without Hutchinson, I feel like they're going to make a move Detroit to get a pass rusher. And those two teams scare the shit out of me. They're definitely legit good. The South, Atlanta's 4-2, Tampa's 4-2. Again,
I'm more impressed with Tampa's 4-2 than I am with Atlanta's 4-2, though.
Well, Atlanta was 7-10 last year, and if they even had remotely good quarterback play, I thought they would have won 10 or 11 games. So I feel like they're going to do that this year. But yeah, Tampa, look, Baker Mayfield's turned into a legit QB in the league. Yeah, legit. How much does it suck for the Browns, man? What could you have made? They probably have the worst QB situation in the league right now. The Browns.
Honestly,
what a disaster.
Here's what I will say. I feel bad for Browns fans. I do not at all feel bad for the Browns.
Agree. I would agree with that.
You made your bed. Now you get to lay in it.
And you're watching Baker throw 4 TDs, and he's on pace for 4,800 yards and everything else with Tampa Bay. Those two teams, I think, are decent. I don't know if they're really good. NFC East. Washington's fun. We'll see what they really are as the season goes on. Yeah. But Jaden Daniels is going to be a player. The rest of that division sucks. Philly's garbage. Yes. Philly looks terrible. the Cowboys just aren't a
Oh
good
my
football team
God.
right now. And I know that they have a lot of injuries, but normally Dallas always scares me a little bit in the back of my mind. I'm not scared at all for this game in 2 weeks with the Niners. I think the Niners are going to wipe the floor with them.
Agreed.
And then the NFC West, I don't think anybody's good but the Niners. I think the Niners are good.
Yeah.
But Seattle's not good.
Seattle's not good. They showed that on Thursday night. Now, again, their defense does have a lot of injuries. Perhaps when they start getting some of those players back and they're getting more and more used to running that Mike McDonald defense, then they might pick things up. But Seattle's offense is good. It's a weird. I feel like
bad
they don't have a
line though.
It's a bad offensive line, and they're throwing the ball all the damn time. Like it doesn't make a ton of sense to me, especially when Mike McDonald was wearing a hat at a press conference last week prior to the 49er game that said run the damn ball, and yet they don't run the damn ball. I saw a stat from Ben Baldwin today that Seattle leads the league in first down pass attempts by a significant margin. I'm like, that's weird. Like that's an interesting now granted, I mean you've got DK Metcalf, you've got Lockett, you've got Jackson Smith and Jigba. Like you've got talented players, Noah Fant at tight end, you've got talented pass catchers, but you're still relying on Geno Smith. And as good as Geno Smith has played for the most part over the past couple of years, it's still Geno Smith. And when he plays teams like the 49ers or just teams that are at the same level or better, he tends to kind of wilt a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see what that offense looks like as, again, it continues to find an identity under Ryan Grubb. But I'm not at all worried about that team. I think now that the 49ers are in first place in the West, I just don't see them relinquishing that.
You mean the 9th best quarterback in the league, Geno Smith,
better than Brock Purdy?
Yeah, according to Stephen Ruiz.
Yep.
Oh, Jesus. Anyway, so when you look at the NFC, somebody's going to win the NFC East, whoever that ends up being. I don't see another wild card coming out of there.
No.
The Niners should win the NFC West. If they don't, it's a disaster because I think they could win it with 9 wins. I don't think there's going to be another playoff team coming out of there. The way I see the NFC shaping out, you have the Niners, you have whoever wins the NFC East. I think 3 teams are going to make it out of the North. The Bears, I feel like, are going to fade because their schedule gets tough in the second half of the season. The other 3, I think, are going to get in. And then I also really believe Atlanta and the Bucs are going to get in. I think that's going to be your playoff field.
Yeah.
I do not think the 49ers are going to get the bye.
No.
It'll go to one of the teams in the NFC North. Yep. I think whoever wins that division is going to end up getting the bye. Who knows? Maybe even Atlanta can sneak in and get it. Just win enough games if the NFC North beat themselves up enough.
I would say that's the one thing that I like as a 49er fan. You just got to kind of hope that the NFC North really just kind of cannibalizes itself and really beats each other up. Because like you said, there's only been one division game so far. So that's really kind of your best case scenario is that the Vikings, the Packers, and the Lions all kind of they split with each other, right? Which gives each team at least 2 more losses. So that is one thing that you got to hope. But yeah, I agree with you. I think 3 come out of the North, 1 out of the West, 2 out of the South, and 1 out of the East.
100%. Yeah. Now those trades today, I knew the Adams one was coming. I did not see the Cooper one coming.
Yeah.
I feel like, do you know when the trade deadline is? I should know that. Do you know that off the top of your head?
It is typically right around Halloween.
Trade deadline.
But
we're going to Google it right now and see when it is. I should have looked that up because I knew I wanted to talk about this and I didn't. So it is November 5th.
There it is. Yeah.
4 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, November 5th. So we definitely have some time, but I do think the Niners are going to make a move. I think that they have to make a move. And as they move forward here, I feel like at their bye, after the bye, I should say, I think they're going to be 4-4. Not to spoil our preview show, but I do not see them winning this week. I do see them beating the Cowboys to get to 4-4 in the bye. But what also is going to come out of that is after those first 8 games, they're going to say, yeah, we need some help here. We need to get some reinforcements. And the Niners have been they've shown they're aggressive. They've been very aggressive. They've shown they're not afraid to make a move. Year in and year out, they make trades during the season, whether it's McCaffrey, whether it's Emmanuel Sanders, whether it's Chase Young, whether it's a smaller move like a Menahu. They'll make a move to make their team better. And I don't think this year is going to be any different. Do I think it's going to be a huge move? No, I do not. Like I saw you tweet something about Max Crosby. I think you're insane.
Well, no. So the
I don't
only
think that's
reason
gonna happen.
the only reason I tweeted that is because I was actually I somebody had tweeted out from Spotrac. Spotrac had tweeted out what a team acquiring Max Crosby would owe Max Crosby and what the dead cap hit would be for the Raiders for Max Crosby.
Mhm.
And it was surprising to me just how reasonable his contract is. And that was kind of the impetus to just say, look, if they were to be willing to part with him, I don't think the 49ers should hesitate to give up at least a first. I mean, it would have to be more than just one first. But I mean, the guy is 27 years old. He would the team acquiring him would owe him 16.8 million this season, but obviously that goes down each week that he isn't traded, right? Because that number just goes down from the Raiders paying him. But then it's 23.1 million in 2025 non-guaranteed and 19.7 in 2026 non-guaranteed. So very similar to like the Christian McCaffrey contract. So my tweet was if they would be willing to trade him, 49ers should not hesitate to give up a first and whatever else they need to make that, and then just immediately rework his deal, guarantee at least those 2 years in the form of a signing bonus, make it like a 2 or 3 year extension, right? And then you get to kind of spread that all out, and it just, like I said, it would be a no brainer. But I mean, half the league would be in on that, and so I mean, I'm not anticipating anything like that happening, but that would be big. I agree with you. I think they're going to make moves. I think it's going to be under the radar moves.
Mhm.
And I think the likely scenario is that it's on the defensive line. I think I don't know where else
100%.
they would look to add, because I think that there are a couple things that you could look at for this team and go, we are not good at these specific positions, but we've got players in the pipeline that in the second half of the season may be able to take over. And so to me, that is Jake Brendel at center. John Feliciano is close to coming back. I wouldn't be surprised if after the bye, he's the starting center for the 49ers. I think it's the biggest weakness on the line right now. In fact, Ben Baldwin put out today his 2024 true pass set grade, and the 49ers are currently 13th. Buoyed largely by the play of Trent Williams, but also by the play of Dominic Puni and Aaron Banks. Dominic Puni right now is the 9th rated guard on PFF.
I saw
that. Banks is the 18th rated guard. So again, both are playing well.
You know who the number one rated quarterback is?
Brock Purdy. No big deal.
Yeah.
But Jake Brendel is really weighing down that line. And so I think you can make an upgrade with an in-house move at John Feliciano. And then to me, obviously, Dre Greenlaw coming in for at this point, D Winners, Devondre Campbell, whatever.
That'll be like a midseason.
That's
pickup.
If
he's 80% of himself, it's a huge difference.
Then possibly the biggest pickup of all could be a second half appearance from Christian McCaffrey. We don't know. I don't expect it, but again, that's still on the table. Not saying it's going to happen, but it's on the table. So
and that's the elephant in the room for the Niners. I feel like McCaffrey, because you're getting arguably the best player in the league if and when he comes back. It's obviously going to be a huge boon to the team.
And so to me, like I just somewhere along the defensive line, I also think that it's time for them to sign Evan Anderson to the 53 man. They cannot elevate him again. Again, granted, limited sample size, but he is the 4th highest ranked or rated defensive player on the 49ers on PFF this season, Evan Anderson, behind Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, and he might be 3rd actually. He has like a 91.8 grade on PFF. Right
does he
now.
really?
Now, like I said, limited,
very small sample size.
Very small sample size, but he has played really well when he's been in. And I think it's high time that they sign him to the 53 because they can't elevate him again. Please, I just hope that they don't mess around and just leave him on the practice squad and elevate T.Y. McGill because they don't have to sign. Like, no, let's just sign Evan Anderson. And you have a rotation of Anderson, Malik Collins, Jordan Elliott, and Kalia Davis and Kevin Gibbons. And that's a pretty solid rotation. And if you can find an upgrade on the trade market, then go for it. But honestly, I think they would probably look edge more than they would interior. And it'll be interesting to see, Hassan Reddick is still out there. The Jets have given him permission to seek a trade.
I
don't know if the 49ers would be willing to give him a contract that he would want in order to,
I don't
show
think
up.
paying anybody.
But they do have the cap. I mean, they have the cap space. I know that they want to roll over a ton of it for Brock Purdy. I understand that, but at the same time, your window is now. And if you feel like, again, you're looking across the NFC and going, if we can go on a run here, I think we could represent the NFC again. You got to make a move to maximize that window.
Well, I feel like the rest of the season is weird as this is to say because they have so much talent. This season's going to be about grinding it out and just getting to January as healthy as you can, and then seeing what happens when you get in the dance. Again, 10 wins is going to win the NFC West. It just is. There's no way. The Cardinals are all over the place. They're not. I don't think they're going to get to 8. The Rams are just too beat up. I mean, the Rams are 1-4. So what? They have to go 9-3 down the stretch to get to 10 wins. I doubt that they're going to do that. In Seattle, I think they're garbage. They beat 3 terrible teams and they've lost their last 3 games. Yep. They have Atlanta this week. If they lose this week, they're in a lot of trouble, losing 4 straight. 9-10 wins is going to get the Niners in the playoffs. That's all you got to do at this point. And then see where you are in January. You're a playoff tested team. You're a veteran team. They know how to win playoff games. Get in there and see what happens. I'd love for them to get the bye. I don't see it at 3-3. If they beat the Chiefs, it could take them on a little bit of because it could be a holy shit moment. Trent Williams said it doesn't make up for the Super Bowl, and he's 100% right.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Still give you a shot in the arm to say, you know what, we haven't played our best, but we just beat our rival or just beat the team that we haven't been able to get over the hump against. Now we're going to go on a run, right? Now that everything's going to carry over from there. But
not only that, but you got to expect as the 49ers, you're like, listen, if we want to win the Super Bowl, who are we most likely to meet there? We're most likely to meet the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
If you lose again to them for the 5th straight time, do you go into that Super Bowl very confident that you can beat that team? Probably not, right?
Yeah.
So
late
again,
in the game, you're wondering what's going to happen.
For a team that has Super Bowl aspirations, they got to slay the dragon. I mean, I know it doesn't make up for it, but it does set them up to be more successful if they have to face the Chiefs in the Super Bowl than losing, right? So if they lose to the Chiefs on Sunday, it is what it is. They're 3-4. Mm-hmm. They beat the Cowboys. They go into the bye 4-4. They go on their standard second half run, finish the season 11-6, 10-7, whatever it is. Likely not going to get the bye, but you never know what's going to happen. Again, Detroit's defense may fall off without Aiden Hutchinson. They may not be able to swing a trade for an edge player that can make a difference. Mm-hmm. You never know. So, but again, the Chiefs are to the 49ers what the 49ers are to the Cowboys. The Cowboys are never going to be successful in the playoffs until they prove that they could beat the 49ers. Just like I don't think the 49ers are going to be a Super Bowl champion until they prove that they can beat the team that has taken them out 2 times in a row. Does a week 7 game against the Chiefs matter in the grand scheme of things? No, but for potential Super Bowl matchups, knowing that you at least have a victory in your back pocket would be huge for this team.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll be down to break it. We'll be here to break it all down later in the week. Huge game for the Niners. It's the biggest game on the schedule this week. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thanks for listening. Subscribe on our YouTube. Subscribe wherever you get our podcasts. For Brian, I am Al.
Later.